Hello everyone, Davening with the Haftorah of Parshat Balak, dedicated to the success of all our soldiers fighting in the field and the speedy return of all our hostages. When you get to the last verse of our Haftorah, there is a pasuk that has been quoted and requoted so many times, and therefore I think it's important to interpret it correctly. The last four words of our Haftorah are Vehatznea lechet im Elokecha, literally walk modestly with God. Many a times this pasuk has been quoted and requoted for the mitzvah of modesty, to cover up here and to cover up there, and I'm not so sure that that is the proper interpretation, because if it was, it would have said walk modestly amongst people. We have to cover up in order to walk modestly amongst people, not with God. What does it mean to walk modestly with God? Our sages explained, Zu hachnasat kala ulevayat hamet. This means actually going to a wedding and going to a funeral. Very strange. What does that have to do with modesty? I believe that our sages wanted to give us a message here. And this is what I believe the message is. There is a common denominator between a wedding and a funeral. And that is that even though we come to a wedding and perhaps we see that maybe the bride is not exactly suited for the groom. You know, he's tall, she's short. Or she's American, he's Israeli, whatever it might be. You're modest. You try to go ahead and take what you wanted to say and make it a little more adin, a little more nicer to hear. And ultimately, you don't say all that's on your mind, and you say, may you have a wonderful life together and build on your differences. Same thing happens at a funeral. You ever gone to a funeral and hear, this man was a wonderful man, but he was also a difficult man? Have you ever heard that you go to a funeral and you hear all his praises, but also all his curses? You try very hard to be modest in the sense of taking the wholeness of the person and trying to make it a little more adin, a little more comfortable and soft on the people that hear. I believe if this is true, that's what it means walking modestly with God. Just like God, in so many places, tried in his Torah to give a message that was softer as opposed to harsher, so too we have to walk with God and give messages to each other that are softer versus more harsher. And in my humble opinion, that's exactly what should be done in shuls. Many a times we see in shuls things that we don't like. This podcast is dedicated to it. If we want to make davening great, we should point out those things. But there's a way to say it. And the way to say it is to try to make it a soft message. It's okay to give feedback, both positive and negative, but it's the way you say it. Think about a funeral. Think about the way the eulogy is done. Think about the way you're happy at a wedding, despite the fact that you see that there's differences between a bride and a groom. And that's the way that you should ultimately give feedback at shul. Don't hold it back, but absolutely think about how you're going to say it and not just what you're going to say. And if that's the way it's going to be done, then you're walking modestly with God, and hopefully that feedback will be heard and will be hopefully acted upon for making davening great again. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom.